Family, welcome. I am Benjamin Seven, and this is TCC, where we talk about truth, culture, and community. And yes, we back again to put that work in with Restoring the Culture Relationship Podcast, episode 9. And yes, we got some good content for you today. So today's content will be a piggyback off of a conversation that me and my wife had. You know, we have like these weekly or monthly check-ins, or whenever it's possible, you know, have these real discussions. And one of those discussions was what actually saved our marriage. And I got a few things that saved my marriage, I think, to myself. And after we get into this content, we want you all to express yours if you're married, or if you're not married, what's one of your things that you think will keep you from getting married or mess up the relationship. So before we jump into that, make sure you give this video a like, subscribe, and hit that post notification bell so you can be caught up on all the content we produce, because this is what we do. I'm going to let my wife kick it off. Let's get it.
We already had this discussion prior, like my husband just stated. And it really caused me to think about the answer to the question, like, what saved our marriage? What things that I feel like if we had not done, we wouldn't still be married today. It was easier for me to think about it from my point of view. And I truly believe the number one thing that I did in order to save my marriage and that made me a better wife was to really study and understand like the anatomy, the makeup of the male species. Like, not always looking for from him what I would do. Like, essentially a big part of my issue was that I wanted him to love me like a woman would love me, like no homo. But I wanted him to love me like a woman would love me, like a specific woman, me. Creepy, right? Like, I wanted him to react in all situations how I would react. I just wanted to be married to myself. And that's not what marriage is. I had to actually understand, well, first be willing to learn and understand who and what a male, the male species, a man really is. And when I really took the time out to do that, it caused me to see that we are completely different. Male and female are completely different. He is not going to react the same way that I react. It may be the same situation that we're going through, but his reaction is going to be totally different. Our desires in a lot of areas are totally different. The amount of desire you have for certain things is totally different. Just male and female are completely different. So when situations arose that would usually fluster our marriage or make me feel some sort of way, the first thing that I would do is to make a really big effort to see his point of view and understand why his reaction was how it was, not just immediately jump to how I wish his reaction would have been.
And that's a tough road to go down, because most of the time people's makeups are based off of their experiences. And a lot of times you got to deal with people's traumas. So getting to know your spouse for real or intimately, you're going to run into some situations that happened prior to you being there, and you're going to have the patience and the love to work through those things. I would definitely have to agree. The Bible says a man is supposed to deal with his wife according to knowledge. A lot of times we're taught these ideas of what a man and a woman should be, and once you get grown, you actually find out that that's not it at all. And that's when the work actually starts. So I would definitely agree. But for me, one of the things that saved my marriage was, and I'm going to give a couple too, getting out of a religious mindset, if you will. That truly opened my mind up to who I was as a person, and and to what type of lifestyle that I wanted to live for myself. Because growing up a Christian, you have strong women, not too many men around. The man may be a pastor, but you may have a deacon sprinkled in there, but the man is not represented. So we talking about a man growing up, or a young man growing up, trying to find his way. And that's what I still see in that religion today. A lot of headstrong women, and a man has to kind of come into that fold. And yeah, it's real rough when you're talking about being a man and dealing with that consciously in the world that you live in. So that is one for me.
Wow, I wouldn't say it's gonna be hard, but that's like one for me too.
Yeah, we didn't say how many. We didn't say just one thing, but yeah, this the stuff that saved our marriage. Right.
And a lot of these things are on the, like, you can't really prioritize them because they are all equally as important. I would say the exact same thing, like letting go of the religious mindset I had as a woman, because I just always felt like, you know, if he do right, like, he need to do better, and then we'll be blessed. Like,
see what I'm saying?
It was like
legit had
I legit had, like,
see what I'm saying?
Full disclosure, I had it in my mind, like, he was the issue, you know, like, I'm the one was like trying to drag him to church, and just like, I was very self-righteous in the respect of being a wife. I felt like if he fixed all of his issues that he had, like, my issues, you know, they was minuscule. Rarely, you know, I didn't really have any. My issues were small, but because he was the leader, because he was the head, it's really a form of manipulation. It causes you to only look at this person because so much stock is put into, like, the man being the leader, the head, what he needs to do. So then that makes you look at him like, all right, what you gonna do?
Man needs to be the leader in the head, but you don't see men leading or being in the head of anything other than the pastor. And it's just weird. She kind of went into it more, but they really make you feel less than. You know, there's this standard set by man, a religious standard that is very hard to grasp and understand, if you will. So, brothers,
obtain.
You know, I didn't want to say ascertain, but yeah, it's really tough to get that standard in your hands and know how to utilize it, because it's always moving, it's always changing. The women gonna have an input on it. It's real tough in that Christian church, man. I'm telling you, being a man, standing up and being a real man. But another one for me would be, and I gotta say it right, another thing that saved my marriage was when I found out that the people that you are attached to actually have power to dictate where you go in life. Mm-hmm. And I didn't realize that. You know, you grow up, like I said, in church, or you grow up with these families, and that's the end all be all. Life does not exist without these people or this church or this religion. Anything outside of that is uncharted territory, and it's probably not gonna work. But when I saw the true value that I possess and the value that my wife and my children possess, and we started to invest in that, I started to see a whole new life, a whole new transformation, not only in myself, but my marriage, the relationship with my kids. It just got, I became in control of what I was doing instead of other people telling me or, you know, kind of interpreting what life should be for a man. You did.
Really understanding the power of influence. Like, that word is used a lot because of the time that we live in, but that word,
influence has been around, huh?
Yeah, they've been around. The paradigm of being influenced, it has been around, and until this generation, many haven't paid attention to how strong, like, the power of influence is. Like, what is around you. I think back in the day they would call it the product of your environment. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's a big one, because we don't give that as much credit as it deserves when it comes to decision making in a marriage. Like, you feel like, I'm grown, I'm married, I'm making my own decisions, but really everything that's going on around you, like, those are the things that you're using to make those decisions. You think, like, I'm making the decision, but no, you taking your pointers and your cues from all of the influences around you. Like, really understanding. So that would be my third one, understanding the power of influence.
And let me piggyback off that to, you know, kind of touch on my first one about growing up in the church and how you feel emasculated. You got to ask yourself, if you got a church of mainly women, and you a young boy coming up in the church, that means that church is going to have all feminine influences, or feminine energy about it. And like I bring it full circle today, what if all we had is female influencers or gay influencers? You could see what the culture is going to be in the next 10 years. That's the only people that's influencing. You're not getting a real representation of a man. And I think not only will the cycles repeat themselves because the influencers don't portray a whole story, but it's going to get worse, man. Another point that saved my marriage, and I got to sit up for this one, is, educating myself on first who I was and what I wanted out of life. If you don't do that, the chances of you being successful at what you were purposed to do is slim to none. And again, it goes back to influence. If your family, your church family, your friends are always the main influence, how will you ever know who you are, what you want out of life? You kind of take what everyone else says or whatever everybody else projects on you, and that, becomes who you are. But once you educate yourself on who I am and where I'm trying to go, then you can investigate the path on how to get there, and that's how you can watch yourself progress in life. But if we don't acknowledge who we are and educate ourselves, getting into a marriage, that's going to be an issue when you don't know who you are as a person. Yeah. That's always going to come up.
I feel like all of ours go hand in hand, because my next one would be just being willing to learn. Because another thing that religion kind of teaches you is like take stupid. No thought. Yeah, like just believe and have faith without and I'm speaking for myself from my point of view, where I came from. I don't know about your church or what religion you in, but just like there was such an emphasis put on belief, and belief being the only thing that you needed. And sometimes life had become so stressful, I didn't have the wherewithal to want to put any effort in. I was so beat down, stressed out, overwhelmed at times that I couldn't even muster up the strength to put my mind to use to figure out man, why are we in this situation? To figure out why are we in this situation? How can we overcome this situation? So it was convenient to always hear and to feel like all I had to do was believe. Forgive me if I took it literal. And that's all I did.
There's a whole lot of underlying currents in that place, man. Yeah. You gotta catch them.
Yeah, I could truly say that my husband encouraged me to educate myself on any and everything that it was that I was trying to do. Things that I wanted to do in life, places that I wanted to go, things that I wanted to learn and be more educated in, about, or on when it came to my children, like schooling. Anything that had nothing to do with marriage or religion or family, just being open enough to say, I can do this. I can educate myself. I can learn new things even though I am an adult. Just really being open, willing, and zealous about putting the work in. Actually putting the work in.
Also, one thing that really saved my marriage is learning that she is not only my best friend, my lover, my road dog, but she's a partner in everything. A lot of times, people come into the marriage with, they set a list of responsibilities, what they gonna do, and the man got a list of responsibilities.
Gender roles.
Gender roles, and I'm a man. I'm a man's man. She's a woman's woman, but sometimes you gotta let that go, bro, and actually be your wife's partner. Whatever she needs help with, whatever she's going through or experiencing, you gotta kind of come down off whatever place you at and meet your partner where they need to be met at. And that shows compassion. That shows empathy, and the overall willingness to grow with your partner. You know, there's no big eyes and little U's in marriage. If you all don't work together, if you don't support shorty when she needs to be supported, then brother, don't expect for you to be supported when
It's
you need
full
to be
circle to what you said earlier, like dealing with your wife according to knowledge.
And that scripture has been used and abused for far too long, bro. But, you know, like I said, you really gotta drop off all the presuppositions and these ideas that come from places that really ain't benefited us. And you really gotta study your partner and study yourself and study your family to produce the best result. Another one that really helped me view my marriage in the way that it should be viewed and make me want to fight for it and progress in it is having the confidence to think for myself or be a leader. Like I said, you could come from the best of the black community, you know, have two parents, a mother, father, you can come from a single mom or single dad. The role of a man is not defined. The role of a woman, for that matter, is not defined. It's not the easiest thing to stand up and say, I'm a man that's holding down his business. Like, what does that actually look like? For each man, that may look different. So you have to become comfortable in who you are and figuring out issues that you deal with. You can't go off of everybody else's blueprint because you're an individual and that may not work for you. So when I understood that, or when I actually believed that I was somebody that was special, if you will, or somebody who could actually do it, somebody of value. You know, a lot of times we look towards other people to see value in because we don't see value in ourselves. So when I started to see that I have value and I moved away from some of those things we named, I started to think for myself and I started to make stuff happen. And I can't invest energy into other people concerning issues that I got going on. I gotta figure them out myself.
Like gauging your value off other. That's like one that when people ask for marriage advice or when they get or give marriage advice, that's one that they always say. You just said it in a much more profound way, but like, don't worry about what other people are doing, or don't compare your marriage to anyone else's. But it seemed like you saying that, plus like, don't compare yourself to anyone else, or like, as a man or as a woman, don't compare yourself to anyone else. Like, take your situation individually, dissect it, study it, learn from it, and make the necessary changes so that you can grow from it, because that is very easy to do. We talked about the other day how before we got married when we was 21. Like, catch up if you new here and you don't know much about us. There are lots of videos on our channel that, you know, tells a bit more about us. But we got married at the age of 21, and we talked about the other day how it like became a trend. Like right after that, we did it at the very beginning of the trend. You know, I don't want to be like Soulja Boy and be like we was the first one, but getting married that young, of course, it was common like in our culture where we come from, like back in the day, and then it had became like not cool. So much so that when you got married young, it was like oh, why you doing that?
She must be pregnant.
Yeah, she must be pregnant. Don't do that. You haven't lived your life. Although I understand why some of those stereotypes where they came from, like not living your life, not being absolutely ready, a lot of times that comes from the people who know that they didn't help you to get ready. So they like, hold on, you sure you ready for this? Because you know you ain't helping me to get ready for adulthood. But that's a whole nother topic for another day. But we talked about how it became a trend, like getting married young became a trend. That wasn't a thing like when we did it. And then after that, so many people were like getting married at young ages, like starting families at young ages, like again, right out of high school, and maybe not going to college because they married and they had kids. Like, so when we first got married, it was a lot of, I ain't forget my point. I did good. So my point is that when we first got married, there were a lot of young marriages that we could have possibly looked around at and tried to compare ourselves to, or felt inadequate because we didn't have the same things, or our the makeup of our marriage didn't look like someone else's. So learning how not to do that was definitely a key factor that we didn't learn until a good while into our marriage. Not that I don't know if I say that, because we always been like leaders and on our own trend, but there is a way that different cultures, the culture in a family or the culture in a religion, can make you feel inadequate if you don't feel like you're living up to that said thing, or what the majority of, in the context that we're talking about, the young married couples were doing.
I'm just thankful for who we are today, man. That's the best case scenario for anybody. If you get married older, obviously you're supposed to know yourself by the time you get married, but that ain't the case for everybody. But you want to know yourself first, and then you want to come into that union studying your spouse so that you can understand who your spouse is, and y'all could do what is prescribed for you all, because the influence is real.
Yeah.
That may be like a part in the title or something. The influence is real,
Yeah.
Doc. And in order to make it on this journey of marriage, you really gotta be together and sold out to the mission.
Yeah.
And that really could piggyback off into a whole lot of other things for us young brothers. When you get a wife, value your wife, man. Like, that's what you chose. So stick with that. Don't be out here doing the what ifs and looking around thinking you can catch something else, because just work with what you got, bro. Make a good decision and work with what you got, because when you cash in your chips for something else, they say the grass ain't always greener on the other side, man. So for us young brothers, that's one for us. Choose wisely and invest in the one that you choose, and forget about everything else, man. That's the best advice I can give you at a price.
How do you feel like you were able to choose wisely at such a young age? Or like, where did you draw from? Or was it just like, even in my ignorance, I made the right choice? Or do you feel like you put in effort at that young of an age to make the right choice? You know what I mean?
That's a great question. I can't say that I was putting in effort or even looking for that. It was like a combination of knowing that I wanted somebody who was beautiful inside and out, and somebody that obviously could meet me where I was and be an asset to me. And that's what this young lady was. I didn't even know it, but she really became like a lifeline in showing me what love was, because right after I met her, my grandmother passed. So it was I don't know, we got to talk about the Most High's providence, because if it wasn't for her, I don't know where I would be. But I can't say that I was out here like preparing myself to meet her, because I wasn't. I was young and in the midst of doing my thing. And that may be a way you could tell, because if you got your life going in one direction, or you thinking something gonna happen and you meet something that just derail everything, you might want to check on that, fam, because that could be the lifeline that you're looking for.
Wow, that was good. I know, like, little girls, people say, like, when you a little girl, you thinking about your wedding or like what you want in a husband. Like, young boys don't do that. They don't think about, like, one day I want a wife and I want her to be like this. Young boys don't do that.
No, not no boys that I know. I don't know. But for you, like, if that's something that you was thinking about, and that's not at all how our life went, do you have any regrets?
What do you mean, if that's something that I was thinking about?
Like, young girls dream about, being swept off their feet and, having a Cinderella wedding and all that. Ours didn't go that way. Do you have any regrets?
I would confidently be able to say that I don't have any regrets. Obviously, I don't have any regrets. However, in the context of that question, you said, like, because most young girls think about, like, the fairy tale wedding, and I didn't think about that stuff. Like, of course, everybody wanted a wedding. You only care about the dress. But what I used to think about that I wanted in a husband was, like, not the beginning, the family portion of it. Like, I want a strong man, a strong provider, a strong leader. Like, someone who is equally, the number one thing I love about my husband is that his strength is equal to his compassion. Like, he's equally as compassionate and understanding. I'm sure this took time for him to grow into, well, I know it took time for him to grow into this person, but the strength that he has as a leader is equal to like the compassion, the understanding, and the love that he has for me. Like, if we keeping it 100% honest, don't no woman want no weak man that we like just can walk all over and tell what to do. I mean, it might be fun for a while, ladies, if that's what's going on. Trust me, it's gonna get very boring. It's gonna get very tired. That is so not like what a woman wants. A woman wants a strong leader who has a plan for her future and for the family, especially if you all have, come together and have children and things like that. Most men haven't mastered like how to have that strength, but also have the compassion that he needs to have, that a woman needs, because that goes back to what we talked about earlier, like understanding the male and female species and how they're different and what they need. Like most women are very emotional, so you need your husband to have that ability, although that's not like who he is all the time or out in public. That's not how he's supposed to be. Everyone is not supposed to see that side of him. But a lot of men have not mastered like how to exude strength in a way that attracts the woman and makes her feel safe without displaying this like weak type image. So that's why a lot of women seem to like go for the bad boy, because don't no woman want no sucker. Like,
and that's all part of the journey. That's what I was trying to say. That's what really saved my marriage. I would say that's number one, just stepping away and going through the process of becoming a man, because it don't happen overnight. You can't just expect to turn into a man once you turn 18. There are so many things you got to learn about balancing your emotions, and that's another thing. She just talked about women don't want no weak man. A lot of these men are good with covering up their true feelings. A lot of brothers is really hurt and angry, so the facade is I'm tough, I'm a thug, I'll shoot you. You know what I'm saying? That's because you're trying to cover up that hurt and pain instead of actually healing from it and then walking around without that chip on your shoulder. The chip in my back pocket, but it ain't in my shoulder. It ain't on my shoulder no more. I don't need to show that level of aggression just to be taken seriously as a male species. But that has to be taught and learned.
Yeah, that's so true. And that's like, I feel like I'm always giving disclaimers because I don't ever want to like offend, but we were raised in separate, very strong religious backgrounds, so it was both of our upbringing, and I feel like that's something that like a lot of young girls who are raised in church, they like find dudes outside of the church and in the family and the community. They're weirded out or confused. Like, how you grew up here all this time and then you went and got like a thug off the street? Because that religious stuff, like, it has the ability to emasculate a man. So as little girls, we looking like they just telling you what to do here. Like, you do not have a mind. You're just at home regurgitating whatever we heard where we was down at over the weekend. And like,
it's cool if the pastor said. If the pastor says it's okay not to think and take his word, but don't do that with nobody. It's just weird, man. It's just It's really, really weird.
It could get really weird if you don't appropriate your relationship with God. Like, if the man does not appropriate his relationship with God, that middleman stuff, it could get really weird. It get and for a female, we look at those type of things like how does this man respond to other men? Like, this man is just telling you what to do, bro, and you just going for it, and you ain't putting no thought into this. You just telling me to do what he said.
It's the same thing with family too, man. You got to be careful to have your word be bond in your house. If you say something and then she got to call her dad or stepdad, like, we got a problem. Not saying that that's an issue. The stepdad may have he can maybe a electrician or something. We got a real electrical matter. But hopefully, fam, she checked with you before she run and call her stepdaddy, because that's a go-between, that's a middleman, and that ain't gonna help you when you're married.
And I would say, like, if there are any young women or women who are not married and watching this video, like, the number one advice I would give somebody right now in this moment who is looking to be married is to not, like, you just have to be sure about the person that you're with and sure about following their leadership, because you're gonna be demonized in a sense for following your husband.
That's crazy.
Even though that's what you agreed to do, like that's when crazy. You took the vows, and even though that's like what the Bible says,
that's the truth, right?
You are going to be demonized for doing that wholeheartedly. So just know that beforehand. Now, it's beautiful when that's not the story. Like when your community and your culture is equally yoked, and like you have women around you who have been married before you, and they give you great advice and are supportive of you wanting to be a submissive, virtuous wife/woman. That's amazing. But just if we're being honest here, which we always are, that's not popular. That's not like the norm. That's not the majority. That is the minority. So if it's any woman or young woman, you know, whatever age woman watching this video, and you are looking for advice on how to be a wife, or, you know, just wanting to start to get into that role, like, be okay with, you know, being different. Be okay with being different, because unfortunately, actually being a wife and being submissive is different. Not just saying it out of your mouth, but actually wanting to do that in your heart and actually making your mind up that I'm with this person because I trust the plan and I'm gonna follow the plan. This is what we doing. It has nothing to do with, oh, you gotta ask your husband, or he said no, or like it gets minimized into those type of petty, minuscule events. But no, there's a greater, bigger, much more beautiful picture when you actually in your heart want to do right by your husband. Like, it's such a blessing. It's such a blessing. I'm telling you, sis, play the game how it's supposed to be. Play.
I love hearing that. It's just so beautiful. You could truly tell if a man has that, because he clearly gonna be different. I mean, it's okay for you to be, I don't want to use the word vulnerable, but it's okay for you to be your full self. You know that you have somebody who got your back, who is partnering with you to see not only what you all have built win, but you win as a person. That's huge, man, when you know that somebody is really rooting for you and in your corner, and
you got that respect.
Yeah, you got that respect, and you made the right decision, man. You could, like, there's nothing that you can't do, man. So learning that person is really there for you and really cares for you, and that you made the right decision, man, will allow you to be a much better man. It'll make it much easier.
It won't be nothing he won't do for you.
Wait, what?
It won't be nothing. I was helping you finish what else you was gonna add to that. Okay. And when you know you got that type of woman, it ain't nothing the man won't do for the woman.
And when you know you got that type of woman, but she right though,
woo.
Man. No, that's the best thing we could do, is really learn who we are as people and present that in the best way. You know, once you know who you are, you know what you want, and you know how to filter out all the other stuff, man. But let us be the ones who went before you all to get you all the rough answers, because it wasn't easy, man. We had to drop some of these things out of our lives in order to be sitting here before you today. I am Benjamin 7, and this is TCC, where we talk about truth, culture, and community. And truth is, these things saved our marriage. June 16th, it'll be 13 years, and we understand the number 13 is new beginnings, fresh start. We getting ready to turn up all over again, man. So we appreciate y'all checking this out. We hope this video is a blessing to you. We hope you find something good in it through our rambling or whatever. But make sure you subscribe, make sure you like, and make sure you hit that post notification bell so you can be caught up on all the content we produce, because this is what we do. Is there anything you want to add?
No, thank you guys for watching.
And we'll see you all on the next one. Much love, much respect. You know the rest.
I don't wanna play no games. I just wanna call, see if we're okay, babe. All I wanna ask you is